Hello viewers, this is the part 3 of the series named Mastering OEM that covers everything you need to know about Oracle Enterprise Manager or OEM to be able to administer it at its best. In the last two parts, we installed Oracle 19c on a Linux 7.9 virtual machine and created the Oracle 19c database for the OEM repository. If you have not watched the previous tutorials in this series, I suggest you watch them first so you get a better understanding on today's tutorial. So today, we will establish the best practices and standards in the database that we created with the name oemrepo, which is going to be our OEM repository database. Please note that our test environment being a virtual environment, we will not establish all these standards, and in fact, some of these are just for your information and will be useful while creating an actual Oracle database for a production environment. So these are the 15 most common best practices or standards that we should be following with an Oracle database. Enabling archivelog mode, adjust the fast recovery area, create 3 redo log groups with 2 members each, multiplex the control file into at least 3 different locations, adjust the process parameter to a higher value, enable flashback and flashback retention target to at least 24 hours, adjust the control file keep record time to 15 days at least, set up full and incremental backups for the database, set up periodic and threshold-based archivelog backups, apply latest PSU or patch set updates, use a non-default listener port, create profiles for normal users, application users, and DBA users, enforce password complexity through password verify function and profiles, enable housekeeping scripts, and enabling auditing in the database level. So now let's apply these standards to our OEM repo database. So let's connect to our server named admin server. Let's sudo to Oracle user and connect to our database using SQL Plus as sysdba. First of all, before making any changes to the parameters or the environment, we will create a text parameter file from the SP file. Next, we will check the archivelog mode is enabled or not using the archivelog list command, and we see that it is disabled currently, and we can enable the archivelog mode when the database is in mount mode. So we have to restart the database and mount it first to change the archivelog mode. So we'll shut it down first, then start it up in the mount mode. Please note that whatever commands I'm going to use here, those are all listed in the description of this video below. To save time, I am just copying those commands from a text document and pasting it here. If you want, you can copy all those commands from the description of this video below, or a link that I am going to specify for a text document in my shared Google Drive. Next, we'll be enabling the archivelog mode with the alter database archivelog command. So database is changed to archivelog mode. Now we'll shut it down and start it up afresh. Startup open. Next, we will adjust the fast recovery area to make sure we have the recovery related files like archivelog or flashback logs or even backup pieces are readily available in the disk. So first, we'll check the recovery area specifications. We have this recovery area under U0006 file system, and it is sized at 7 gigs. And we know that this particular file system has enough space when we design the server. So we can see how much space is there in this file system, and we see that there are 25 gigs available at this time. So we will change the fast recovery area to at least 24 gigs using alter system set db recovery file desc size to 24 gigs, scope equal to both. And then we have to create 3 redo log groups of 2 members each for better performance and availability of the database. Right now, let's see how many redo log groups are there, and we see that there are only 3 groups with 1 member each. So first we have to delete these groups with 1 member, and we'll recreate these groups with 2 members each, and the members will be distributed across the file systems we designated for them. So first we will create the locations where all these redo log file members will be created, and this is going to be a host command, and our file system designated for the redo log files are U002, U003 and U004, and we are going to create these specific folders there under those file systems. And next we will see what is the status of the redo log groups, whether they are currently being used. If it is used, then we will not be able to drop it and recreate them. So we have to first check what is the status, and we see that the group number 1 is currently in use, so we cannot drop it. Instead we will create the group number 2 and 3. So to do that, first we will drop the redo log group 2, and we will create it with this command: alter database add log file group 2, and the 2 members in this group are distributed in the U003 file system and 4 file systems. So this is the naming convention. The first number is specified for the group, and the next number in the file name is specifying the member number. So redo log 021 is the first, redo log 022 is the second member, and both these members are going to be of 200 MB in size. Similarly, we will drop the redo log group 3 and recreate it with the 2 members with size 200 MB each, and those are going to be created in the file systems U004 and 2. Now let's see the status of the first group again. We see that it's still current, and if it is current, then we cannot drop this group. So first we have to force it to go to the next group, which we just created, that is the group number 2. So alter system switch log file will do this magic for us, and we can see again, so it is still active. It means it's not going to allow us to delete. So let's do this again and check the status again. It is still active. Let's do the alter system switch log file again and see. Yes, it is inactive now because I switched the log file more than what I should have done. That's the reason it went back to the group number 1 again, and I had to do a couple of more alter system switch log files, but now it is inactive and we are going to drop it. So drop log file group 1, and we will create the 2 members in the file systems U002 and U003. So you can see that for the first group, the 2 members are distributed in U002 and 3. For the second group, it is 3 and 4, and for the third group, it's 4 and 2. So it is distributed in a cyclic fashion. So now we will see our redo log groups again. So we have 3 groups, 200 MB in size, and there are 2 members each. So each member has a size of 200 MB, and we can see all these log files we created. So 2 members each. Now we will have to multiplex the control file into at least 3 different locations. It's for integrity and availability of the database. So first, let's see what is the current control file's parameter value. We can see that it is now distributing the control file in 2 locations, that is the U005 and in the first recovery area itself. But these 2 locations are not what we wanted. Now we'll set the control files parameter to have the control files distributed across these 3 different file systems The first one will be in U002, the second one will be U003, and the third one will be in U004. But this parameter will require the database to be bounced for the changes to take effect. So we are doing it through the scope equal to sp file parameter, so that when we will restart the database, the changes will take effect. Now, before we restart the database, there is one more parameter which also needs a restart of the database for the changes to take effect. So we will change that parameter as well before we restart the database. So let's check the current value of the processes parameter, which is 300, and it's very low. So we will set it to something like 2000 before we restart the database, and the scope here is sp file again. And now we can shut down the database. So our database is shut down. Now we will go back to the OS prompt and make necessary changes so the control file is copied to the appropriate locations. First one, so we'll move the control file in the U005 location to U002 location. So we'll move it. Similarly, we will also move the control file in the first recovery area to the U003 location. That is done, and we will make a copy of the second control file to create a third one. That is, the control file in U003 will be copied to U004 location. So all our changes in the operating system level for the control file are done. Now we can restart the database. So again, SQL plus /s sysdba, and now we can start the database. So database is open, and we can check the value of the control files parameter again. And now we can see that there are 3 control files which are distributed in these 3 locations we designated. Also, let's check the process parameter value, which should be 2000, and yes, it is 2000. Now we need to check whether the flashback is enabled in our database. So this is actually important for faster recoverability of the database. So first we'll check whether the database has flashback enabled or not. Set lines 300, pages 300 to set the SQL Plus environment, and we see that the flashback value for the database is no. So we have to set this. So this is an online parameter, so we don't have to bounce the database for the changes to take effect. So we can enable the flashback in the database using the command alter database flashback on, and the flashback is on in the database. To verify it again, now we can see that the flashback is on. Now let's check the control file records keep time parameter, and we see that the current value is 7, which is very low. Although it is an optional parameter for you, if you are not using a recovery catalog, I suggest you set it to at least 15 or higher. So for now, we'll set it to a value like 30. So alter system set control files record keep time equal to 30. Scope both. Now, a few of the standards like setting up the incremental backups and set up a periodic and threshold based archive log backups, and also apply the latest PSU. These 3 things we are not going to apply here in our virtual database for obvious reason, and we will cover these topics in a separate video outside of this series. For example, setting up a periodic and threshold based archive log is very important. A periodic backup will make sure that the archive location is freed up periodically, and a threshold based archive log backup is important because, say, on a particular day there is a massive activity which is executing a lot of DDL and DML operations in the database, which is causing a lot of archive logs to be generated, which is more than usual and more than the average archive logs that gets generated every hour. Now, if your periodic archive log backup runs every hour, it is highly likely that your archive location will be filled up even before the next run of the archive log backup job clears up the space. It's because in that case, if you have a threshold-based archivelog backup script that periodically, say every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, if it checks the archive location for its occupancy or what percentage of the file system is being used, and you set a threshold like say when it is more than 40%, this backup job will run. Then whenever that massive DML activity is going on, generating a lot of archive logs, and even before it reaches the 100% and brings your database to a standstill, the threshold-based archive log backup script will execute the archive log backup job, and it will clear the archive location, which will also prevent the database from going to a standstill or frozen because of the archive location is 100% full. Next thing, we will make sure that the listener is not listening in a default location. So if we see the local listener parameter for this database, we see that it is having the string value listener OEM repo, and we can just using this tns ping command at host level, we can find out whether it is listening at the default port or something else. So we can see that the port is 1522, which is not default port 1521. So we are good in this aspect. And also we should create profile for normal users, application users, and DB users to maintain uniform limits within each set of users and also security of the database. So if we see what are the current profiles created in the database, we see that there are 3 profiles: default, Orastig profile, and GSM profile. These 2 are created by Oracle itself, but for us we have only the default profile, which is not good. So we have to create profiles for our different set of users based on the requirements. Next, enforce the password complexity through password verify function and profiles. This is to keep your database secure. If we see that currently our default profile has no password verify function assigned, if you see that the value of the password verify function is null, means the default profile is not enforcing any password verification or complexity function. So this is a risk to the database, and we should always use a password verify function, which is actually provided by Oracle, and if we want, we can use it in our profile. Next one is the enabling of housekeeping scripts. This is to make sure that unwanted or very old trace files, dump files, log files, or audit files do not fill up your database server storage space. So you can set up OS-based scripts which will periodically run and inspects the locations where these files are created and delete them based on their age. Say any files older than 30 days or 15 days will be deleted automatically. This will make sure that this space utilization is under control for these files. So there are multiple ways to achieve this. You can create OS-based scripts and schedule them on cron tab or in OEM or as database jobs also. We will discuss this in a separate video as this is not within the current scope. Next is enabling the auditing in database level. This is to maintain vigilance and security of the database. If we see what is the current value of the audit trail parameter, we will be able to find out. We can see that the audit trail parameter is set to DB, means auditing is enabled at DB level. And also we can see what auditing is being performed. We can see that these are the different parameters for audit purpose, where we can see the different values for the audit related parameters in our database. Now that our database standards are established, we will download the OEM software for Oracle. Please note that you must have an account with Oracle to download software from Oracle Corporation. To download Oracle Enterprise Manager software from Oracle Corporation, we will go to download.oracle.com, and in this page we will go to the middleware section, and there we'll see Enterprise Manager under middleware, and under Oracle Enterprise Manager download options we will see this in the top section. That is the latest one now, that is Oracle Enterprise Manager Cloud Control 13c Release 5, and here we have to download this one because our operating system is Linux 64-bit. So we will click on this, and this opens the other window that is giving us the details on the components that we are going to download. This is actually giving us a list of 5 archives for the OEM 13.5, and we have to download all these 5 files. So click each of these files to download. So once your download is complete, you will be able to see these 5 files in the download location. You don't have to unzip these files, just keep them in a local file system in the server where we will install it. In my case, I have mounted the folder in the host system where I have downloaded the OEM software as a local file system in the virtual machine. And this can be done using the shared folder option for the virtual machines. So I logged in as Oracle user and do a df-h to see the file systems mounted. And this is my file system, VBox SF2, and we go to that location where I am keeping my installer or OEM, which is this folder, OEM 13.5 Linux 64. So we have these 5 installer files ready in this location, which we are going to use in the next video, where we'll start our actual installation of OEM 13.5 software. So viewers, I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. Please hit the like button if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss an episode in this series for the Oracle DBAs or similar educational videos that I am uploading every week.